History's biggest cover-up, the ancient world you were never meant to see. You've been told a story about the ancient world. A story of primitive people, simple tools, and a neat, linear progression from hunter-gatherers to us. What if a handful of artifacts, objects that challenge everything we thought we knew point to a truth so different, it was almost lost forever? This is the ancient world you were never meant to see. For decades, we've been taught a simple timeline. Humankind lived in small, nomadic bands until about 10,000 years ago, when agriculture let us settle down and build cities. It's a clean story. But in the 1990s, archaeologists in southeastern Turkey unearthed something that threw a wrench in the works. The site is called Göbekli Tepe, dated to around 9600 BCE. It's a huge temple complex built from massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some standing 18 feet tall and weighing up to 50 tons. These aren't crude blocks. They're elegantly carved with detailed reliefs of animals, foxes, lions, scorpions, and vultures. Building this would have required hundreds of people to quarry, transport, and erect these megaliths with incredible precision. But here's the puzzle. According to the traditional timeline, the people who built Göbekli Tepe were hunter-gatherers. At the time of its construction, widespread agriculture, pottery, and animal domestication hadn't yet developed. So, how could a society of foragers organize the labor for such a project? Where did they find the food to support a huge workforce? How did they develop the complex social structure and abstract thought needed for this? Thousands of years before the first cities were supposed to have been built. Mainstream archaeology is still grappling with these questions, and many agree Göbekli Tepe forces us to rethink the origins of civilization. But what if it's more than that? What if it's not the beginning of our story, but an echo of a much older one? The discoveries there are ongoing. In 2025, excavators found a remarkable life-size human statue with defined features, adding another layer of artistry and ritual complexity to this incredible site. These finds challenge old ideas about the capabilities of pre-agricultural societies. This is the first clue that our timeline might be incomplete, suggesting a complex culture existed deep in the last ice age. The engineering paradox of ancient Egypt, the mystery only deepens when we travel to the most iconic monuments on the planet, the pyramids of Giza. The official story is well known. These were tombs built for the pharaohs around 4,500 years ago by a massive labor force using copper chisels and brute strength. And while no one denies the achievement, a growing number of engineers and independent researchers are asking some tough questions. The Great Pyramid alone has an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons. These blocks are fitted together so perfectly you can't fit a piece of paper between them. The whole structure is aligned to true north with an accuracy that would challenge modern builders. So, what's the issue? Mainstream archaeology holds that this was all done with simple tools and immense manpower. But when you look closer, the story starts to fray for some. Take the granite coffer in the king's chamber. It's carved from one solid block of granite. Hollowing it out with copper saws and stone pounders would have been a staggering task. Some engineers who've studied drill holes in granite at Giza note markings that suggest a drilling speed that seems, to them, inconsistent with simple hand tools. While the consensus view is that copper tools used with an abrasive like sand are a plausible method, the sheer precision has led others to ask if that's the whole story. Did they have a lost technique we're unaware of? The official story says it was carved for Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE. However, in the 1990s, geologist Dr. Robert Schoch argued that the deep erosion on the Sphinx and its enclosure walls was uncaused by wind and sand, but by thousands of years of heavy rain. When was the last time the Giza Plateau saw that kind of rainfall? Not in Khafre's time. You'd have to go back thousands of years, to a period before 5000 BCE mainstream. Egyptologists and most geologists have fiercely rejected this water erosion hypothesis. But the theory persists, a stubborn question that doesn't quite fit the established timeline. If the Sphinx were that old, who carved it? It would predate the known Egyptian civilization by millennia. Could the pharaohs have simply found it, already ancient, and claimed it? Some recent surveys using ground-penetrating radar have found anomalies and voids beneath the Giza Plateau, though these remain unconfirmed and unexplored. It all suggests there may be much more to this site than we see on the surface. These aren't just monuments. They are questions written in stone. Technologies that shouldn't exist, but some artifacts are so strange, they are often dismissed as curiosities or out-of-place artifacts. When you look at them together, they paint a different picture. Discovered in the 1930s, it's a 2,000-year-old clay jar with a copper cylinder and an iron rod inside. If you fill it with an acidic liquid like vinegar, it produces a small electric current. But experiments prove it works as a simple battery. Was it used for electroplating jewelry with gold? Or perhaps a form of ancient pain relief? We just don't know. But it's a tantalizing hint that our ancestors might have understood electrical principles far earlier than we credit them for. Then there's the legend of Damascus steel. Then, around the 18th century, the technique for making them was lost. It took until the 20th century and the invention of scanning electron microscopes for scientists to rediscover the secret. The blades had a unique internal structure containing materials that modern science calls carbon nanotubes and nanowires. These structures, which formed due to the specific forging process and raw materials, gave the steel its legendary properties. The ancient smiths didn't have electron microscopes. They had a recipe, a tradition passed down through generations, that allowed them to create a material with properties so advanced our science is only just beginning to understand it. It was an art that inadvertently manipulated materials at the nanoscale. So we have perplexing structures and strange artifacts. But where are the records? Where are the blueprints and the textbooks of this potentially lost world? The answer might lie in the smoke and ash at one of history's greatest intellectual catastrophes, the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BCE, the library was the greatest center of knowledge in the ancient world, aiming to collect all of human wisdom. At its peak, it housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls from across Greece, Egypt, Persia, and beyond. The popular myth is that it burned down in one fire, maybe by Julius Caesar's forces. But the truth is more of a slow, tragic decline over centuries. As new orthodoxies rose, the knowledge in the library was sometimes seen as a threat. This wasn't a single, coordinated cover-up, but a long, agonizing death of knowledge driven by war, neglect, and intolerance. What did we lose? We know of ancient astronomers who, unlike most of their peers, speculated that the Earth might revolve around the sun long before Copernicus. It held anatomical studies from physicians who had made incredible discoveries. It may have held advanced mathematics, engineering manuals, and maps we can no longer imagine. By losing the library, we lost a massive part of our past. It created gaps in our history, severing our connection to what our ancestors truly knew and were capable of. The story we have now is the edited version. We are living in the shadow of a library we never knew. If this story makes you question the official narrative, if you believe we deserve the full story of our past, then help us get these questions out there. Like this video, subscribe, and join a community of thinkers dedicated to uncovering the world that was hidden from us. Your engagement is more than a click. It's a statement that you are ready to seek the truth. The world you weren't meant to see. Göbekli Tepe, the erosion on the Sphinx, the Baghdad Battery, the lost Library of Alexandria. Seen individually, they're fascinating mysteries. But when you connect the dots, a stunning picture begins to emerge. They could be the scattered breadcrumbs of a lost chapter of human history, a chapter that suggests our past is far more complex than a simple, upward line of progress. It's a conclusion that many researchers have pointed to for decades, and while controversial, the evidence is becoming harder to ignore. This leads to the forbidden idea. What if humanity didn't rise just once, but has risen and fallen in cycles? Scientists even have a thought experiment for this concept, the Silurian hypothesis. It asks, if an industrial civilization existed on Earth millions of years ago, what evidence would be left? The authors concluded that very little would survive beyond subtle chemical traces in the rock. Now, the civilization we read discussing is far more recent, perhaps flourishing before a great cataclysm at the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago. But the principle is the same. What would be left after 12 millennia of floods, erosion, and rising sea levels? You'd probably be left with the most durable things, and a few inexplicable artifacts, because it shatters the myth of linear progress. It suggests our modern civilization isn't the absolute pinnacle of human achievement, but maybe just the latest cycle. It challenges institutions that have built their authority on being the gatekeepers of history. It hints that we might be a species with amnesia. The official story of our past is simple, comfortable, and maybe incomplete. These clues suggest a past far grander and more mysterious than we've been told. They point to a world whose memory was almost erased by time, conflict, and catastrophe. The question is no longer if we are missing part of our story. The search for the ancient world we were never meant to see has only just begun.